Hello there everybody, this is Speckblocklime here with another video reaction for all of you today. And the video we're going to react to is from the channel MrBallen. I'm pretty sure by now we've done a few of these. What's the word? And hopefully this will be one of the sets that we've been working on and hopefully work on a few more in the future. What else I say? Well, the video title is The Elevator Footage No One Can Explain, the Elisa Lam story. I think I remember, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I remember reading the story in different versions or how it's said. I'm not going to comment too much about those right now because this is going to be their version, MrBallen. I want to see how this one goes. But I think in general, I think it's just a big mystery that no one knows. And it seems like it should be simple to solve, but there's just a few things that make it sound weird. Realistic in some sense still, but it's still interesting that nobody knows exactly what went down with this story. But anyway, enough with the distraction. Let's get on with the video. Here we go. Wait, hold on. There we go. Here we go.
How did she manage to bypass the alarm, climb onto the water tank without the use of a ladder, open the lid, and then wriggle inside of the tank itself, and then shut the lid, and then, drown? How did that happen? Hey, what's going on, guys? MrBallen here. You probably know me from TikTok. Hopefully you're starting to get to know me on YouTube as well. Today we have a really fascinating mystery.
Interesting story,
and
yeah.
No, I'm not going to be saying that about every single mystery I do. I think I said that about the last one, the Dyatlov case one. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. But this one really is. It's probably in the top 5 of the most fascinating unsolved mysteries on the internet. And I think the reason is because there's this video footage.
Oh yeah, that part.
But there's really a remarkable story around that footage, and that's the story I want to tell. And that is the case of Elisa Lam. The too long didn't read version. Elisa is this young, smart, beautiful college student. She makes it to Los Angeles, and then she disappears. She was found dead in this water tank on the roof of this sketchy hotel, and there's video footage of her right before she winds up in the water tank.
That's so interesting, like how that even happened, nobody
Elisa
really
Lam
knows.
was the daughter of Chinese immigrants. She was born in 1991 in Canada. She was an avid blogger. She was very into fashion. She also was dealing with some mental health issues. She had been diagnosed as having bipolar disorder. She had also been diagnosed as
I think I remember hearing that.
Even though her family initially was very close hold about detailing anything about her mental health struggles, they had never seen any suicide attempts or any suicidal ideations. On January 13th, 2013, Elisa Lam posted that she had just purchased her tickets to travel to San Diego, then on to Los Angeles, Santa Cruz, and then on to San Francisco. She was calling this her West Coast tour. So she heads off on this tour. She goes to San Diego, and then she takes an Amtrak train up to Los Angeles. And so she arrives in Los Angeles on January 26th, and she checks into this notoriously sketchy hotel called the Cecil Hotel, which is actually located right near Skid Row in LA. It's a large homeless population, very high crime rate.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Cecil Hotel itself, in addition to being located in a pretty seedy area, it had a fairly macabre history itself. It was actually famously associated with the Black Dahlia murder, where the victim
that story,
at the bar,
which will probably be talked about in a different video, maybe not. I don't know if MrBallen has covered that, but
15
maybe we'll talk about it another
non-natural
time.
deaths associated with the Cecil Hotel
That and other
ever
stories.
since it was built in the 1920s. And you would think that it would have been condemned, but in fact, LA has made it a landmark right now, so it's kind of protected, the hotel itself. But either way, she checks into the Cecil Hotel on January 26th, and initially she's put into a shared hostel-style room with some other tourists in the area. But it would come out in the investigation that she actually had to be moved out of that room due to the complaints of her roommates that, said she was acting very odd. And so they moved her to a private room. Now, Elisa was traveling alone. And if you combine that with the fact that, She was dealing with some mental health issues.
I get that problem, but I still don't get
Parents were
why
very
he was
nervous
alone.
about this trip, and so they had made this deal that in order for her to do this West Coast swing on her own, that she would need to check in with them every single night. And so she was doing that. So she takes off through San Diego, she checks into Cecil Hotel, she's checking in with them every night. But on January 31st, which was the day she was supposed to check out of the Cecil Hotel, she went silent. And her parents, who were all over this, immediately were very concerned.
Well, yeah, the worry, yeah.
Los Angeles Police
Department. Still, I still don't get why he was alone.
They descended on the Cecil Hotel. They started looking everywhere.
She literally had no one really that she knew to cover her.
I mean, they plastered her picture
and be there with her.
And
even if they weren't in the same room, the idea that they were just there by themselves.
They said that, we saw Elisa, and they did mention that she had been moved from the shared room to her own room, but that any interaction she had had with staff, which there weren't that many, was she was minding her own business. She was by herself, and she seemed like a totally normal guest of the hotel. There was a business owner. She owned a bookstore called The Last Bookstore, kind of ironic, who saw Elisa Lam. She was one of the last people to see Elisa, and she said that she was there purchasing gifts clearly for her family, little trinkets to kind of memorialize her trip through LA. But that was it. And so despite the massive...
that kind of proves that she was, at least at some point, she was sound mind that she was going to come back.
But internationally, I mean, this was all the way back in China where, her family was from. I mean, this was making headlines everywhere. Despite all of that, no one could find Elisa. Then the police were given footage of Elisa in the elevator. And the police released that footage to the public, and it pretty much immediately went viral. No one can make sense of what the heck
the infamous
Elisa
footage
is doing in the elevator. She gets into the elevator, she proceeds to press all of the buttons, and then hides in the corner of the elevator. And then she starts poking her head in and out into the hallway as if she's looking for someone. And then eventually she kind of gets into the threshold of the elevator and starts moving her hands around kind of crazily, like she's either talking to someone or, I mean, it really looks like she's hallucinating or something. It's very bizarre hand gestures. And then she disappears. And that was the last footage we have of her alive. And what's even stranger is probably right after this video is taken, she goes to the rooftop by her own will, or someone made her go there, and she dies. So we're looking at the last few moments of Elisa's life. Now, the footage, despite its virality and despite how much more attention this gave the case, it didn't actually provide any big breaks, because the footage just captures this woman who seems kind of disturbed on the elevator. It doesn't give away really anything that actually happened to her. But after the release of that video, over the course of the next 2 weeks, guests of the Cecil Hotel started complaining about low water pressure.
This was just terrible.
As well as a foul taste in
where it starts leading up.
In fact, one of the guests even said that the water, when she turned it on, had come out black before clearing, and then it was clear water, but then the water had a foul taste to it. On February 19th, so this is now 2 weeks after her disappearance, and now following all of these complaints about the water, Santiago Lopez, who's a maintenance worker for the Cecil Hotel, he goes up to the roof and he goes to check on the water. He opens up the water tank to see what's going on, and there lying in the water is the body of Elisa Lam. So a couple things about the water tank itself. So it's on the roof.
It starts, all the other stuff that was happening starts slowly building up, leading up to what,
that has an alarm set.
the big,
know the alarm code.
Terrible
If
surprise.
you didn't and you triggered the alarm, I mean, it goes off across the
No, this is the stuff that makes it complicated. Like, how did she get up there without doing certain movements and then having access to that place?
Obvious thing, and someone would have noticed, and no one claimed to have seen her taking, the fire escape up to the roof. Then, let's assume you've made it on the roof somehow, either by knowing the code to the door or using the fire escape. The tank, which is this 4-foot tall tank, is actually about 10 feet off the ground. Okay. And in order to get to the tank itself, you would need to use a ladder. And there weren't any ladders present. There's no ladders anywhere, right? But so even if you manage to climb onto the tank, without the use of a ladder, there are these heavy lids on the surface of these tanks.
Yeah, the protect and cover.
The hotel doesn't want people getting into the drinking water, so it's pretty well guarded. If you could get the tank to, I think it actually slides off, The opening to the tank isn't particularly large, so you'd have to wriggle your way into the tank. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you're in, it would be nearly impossible to shut the tank again. And the tank
Oh yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
shut when they found
Well,
it.
that
The
was one of the
Santiago
things that was
Lopez went
mentioned a
up
few
there.
times, I
The
think, in
latch to
some
the lid
article,
was undone, but the lid
where
was
it feels
covering the
like it
tank.
would have been impossible
So
for her to do
how
this
did
all by
she manage to
herself.
bypass
Someone had
the
to be
alarm,
involved in
climb
something.
onto the water tank
Because they
without the use
say
of a
the
ladder,
biggest proof
open the
is that
lid, and
even
then
if she
wriggle
got up
inside
there
of the
by
tank
herself
itself, and then
somehow
shut the lid, and
and
then
somehow open the
try.
lid, she wouldn't
How
be
did
able
that
to
happen?
close the lid
Because her
on
body
herself.
had decomposed significantly, it was fairly difficult to run any sort of forensic testing to see what the heck happened to her.
Oh, that's
But the coroner was able to determine that this was an accidental drowning. As improbable as that sounds, that's what the coroner's report indicated. Amateur and professional sleuths alike are fairly divided on what actually happened
yeah.
to Elisa.
I feel, in my
some
opinion,
say that if you look at the odd behavior
I
complaints that have been
think
made against Elisa by her roommates that first night at the Cecil Hotel when they had to move her to her own room, people point to that as indicative of someone who had had a sort of psychotic break, and that the footage of her
that
in the
info too
elevator
probably
was
might
just
add to
someone
the
having a
story.
manic episode, and that's what caused all of this. And there's a fairly large contingent of people who believe that. Others say Lisa just committed suicide, that even though it was a complicated suicide, it was suicide
It's a strange
nonetheless.
way to go
And of course,
about it.
because this is a very high-profile, unsolved case,
I'm not saying it's
there are
impossible,
theories
but it feels
about
like
this being, somehow
it just
connected to
feels like
paranormal
that's
or
not
ghosts or any number of theory. But the bottom line is, despite knowing the who, what,
the
where, and
only
when, and
thing
having
known about that.
footage and timelines, we just don't know the why. The one thing that most people investigating this case can agree on is they really want the coroner's report to be re-examined. Not because there was negligence or something, but because there has to be something else there.
Yeah,
This can't have
it's
just
not
been
like it
another
was. They didn't have
accidental
protections to a
drowning
certain
when the
point.
circumstances surrounding
It's
her
just
death are so
something
bizarre,
pushed these
and
events to
just the
go farther
likelihood of
than
her
they
being
should
able
have.
to get onto the roof and
Because
up
the
into
roof
that
was
water
hard to
tank
get up
without help
to, and
is a
even
little
then,
bit
getting
far-fetched.
up to the
So,
tanks was hard to do
unfortunately,
by
that hasn't
yourself, and
happened,
then even then,
and
opening the
for
lid was
parents,
hard.
unfortunately, there's probably not going to be
So it's kind
closure
of hard to say it's really
anytime
fault
soon.
of the
So that's going to
hotel,
do it, guys. If you
100%,
haven't already, please smash
because
like and subscribe to my channel.
hold on,
I'd love it if you turned on notifications
because
as well.
there's all those
Really making a push to get more of
protections
these
that
stories on my
they didn't need
YouTube
to set
channel.
up, but they had them
Looking to
already.
do one or two even every week. This is really my primary focus going forward, so please subscribe, like, and
I'm
turn
just
on
letting
notifications.
MrBallen say all the
Also, be
things
sure
they're
to follow me
promoting.
on TikTok. My handle's the same as YouTube. It's MrBallen. And then also on Instagram, it's JohnBallen416. Thank you all so much, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
That was an interesting video. I like hearing the perspective of MrBallen. Like I said, not really much I can add. The only thing I'm going to say about what I believe, at least basically, is I think someone might have been involved in what happened to her. Maybe not heavily, but maybe some slightness of something. Because some of the evidence it just keeps showing where it seems like it was improbable that she did this by herself. And why would she choose this method if it was supposedly, to not be part of this world anymore? Why would she choose this method instead of some other ones that I think in the family history, there's not saying that she tried to, but at least thought about certain things and how life would probably be different. But there's just so much proof that just shows, and at least some aspect that this wasn't done by herself. It's like something, I don't know if directly involved, but something was involved in these parts. Because it just seems too strange for someone to do all these things and go through all this effort by themselves to just do this something like that. But anyways, that's MrBallen's video. Check out their channel. Check out this video and many others. Please give them those views. And hey, if you want to come back here, give us some. This is Speckblocklime. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell notification button so you get notified about future videos. Hopefully you guys are good, taking care of yourselves. I'll try to put links down below to everything that I can link. Hopefully check out all the works we've been working on. So hopefully, yeah, you guys take care. Hope you're good. And I don't know, hopefully you guys do something fun soon. Take care.